If you are looking for day 5 for grammar, here we are. You came to the right video. Today, the first section is capitalization. And the rule that they're reviewing today is that you want to capitalize the first word, the last word, and all important words of any title. You do not capitalize little words like and, the, and, but, or, nor, or prepositions of 4 or fewer letters, unless they happen to be the first or last word. All right, so the example for how to capitalize is the power of pink. And you see the letters that they capitalized. The is capitalized because it's the first word. But of is not capitalized because it's not the first word and it's a little one. All right, so if you look at the titles that they're giving you, and they want you to capitalize, first is ahead of the curve. All right, so based on what we just read, are you going to capitalize of or the? No. All right, so the only words that would be capitalized, the only letters that would be capitalized are A and ahead and C and curve. Next, they have Women About Town organization. I had to read this a couple of times myself to figure out what was supposed to be the title. And then I figured out that it's an organization called Women About Town. All right, so how you're going to capitalize that is you would capitalize the W in women, the A in about, and the T in town. So here's my example. Ahead of the curve and Women About Town organization. The next section is punctuation. And what they're reviewing with you today is that you want to place a comma after the greeting of a friendly letter and the closing of any letter. Now, looking at this letter, if I got this letter in the mail, I would think this is about the most lame letter I ever got, and what a waste of a stamp. But they're just using it to give the example of how you're going to use commas in a friendly letter. So, dear Rosa, comma, our MAD meeting is today, period. Forever, comma, Fran. Parts of speech, adjectives and adverbs. This section on good and well, I would venture to say that the majority of Americans don't follow very well, no pun intended. Good is an adjective that describes. I had a good lunch. Our dog is good, all right? Good is an adjective and it describes. Well is an adverb that tells how. You use well with an action verb like doing, and you use well in terms of illness. So she skis well. The action verb is ski, and you're telling us how she skis, so you would say she skis well, not she skis good. Okay? Well is what you use with an action verb. And then describing how you feel. I don't feel well. I don't feel good. You should be saying, I don't feel well. If you're not sure and someone asks you, how are you doing today? If you don't know, oh, do I say I'm doing good or I'm doing well? Just say, I'm doing fine, thank you. All right, looking at the examples here, these are pretty easy for whether you're going to use good or well. Pat is what kind of a cook? Is she a well cook? She's a good cook. Pat is a good cook. Pat cooks well. Cooks is an action verb, so you would use well to describe it. Okay? I'm pretty sure they're going to review this with you again throughout the course of the year as when to use good and when to use well. And if you catch me using it incorrectly, and there's a good chance you will, raise your hand and point it out and you'll get a bonus point. Looking at the next section, phrases and clauses. We're introducing prepositional phrases now, and I would have given you a handout that has a list of all the prepositions. So a prepositional phrase is just a preposition followed by a word or more to make a phrase. A prepositional phrase begins with a preposition and ends with a noun or pronoun. It consists of 2 or more words. Examples are with us, for Emma. A participle phrase, this should sound familiar to you, we've been doing this several days now. A participle phrase may begin with a present participle. Example, bouncing a ball. The infinitive form of bouncing would be to bounce. And the present participle is bouncing. And then the past participle would be bounced. A participle phrase may also begin with a past participle. The example here is dried in the sun. So the infinitive form of that verb would be to dry. The present participle would be drying, and the past participle is dried, and they used it in the phrase dried in the sun. Now, if you notice, prepositional phrase, participle phrase, past participle phrase, and present participle phrase all start with P's. So down here, when you have to identify which one's a prepositional phrase or a participle phrase or a past participle phrase, they're going to have you use symbols and numbers instead. Okay? So the first one, feeling foolish. Feeling is in the present tense, so this is a present participle. And if you look, it says for a participle phrase beginning with a present participle, you mark it with a 3. Next, we have dressed casually. Dressed is a past participle. So dressed carefully would be a past participle phrase. And if you look, it says for a participle phrase beginning with a past participle, you mark it with a square. So that would be marked with a square. And then in a minute. In is a preposition. So in a minute is a prepositional phrase, and for that you do that little diagonal diamond shape that's all colored in. So here we go. That's what it should look like for you. Last thing you have is the sentence combining. Here you have 3 sentences to combine. Impress me, surprise me, and I'll correct them. Just don't make them into run-ons. Good luck.